Your session has ended. Hello, sir.
Hi, Tanya. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, absolutely good.
And how's everyone at home? Friends, family, all good?
All good and safe so far. I've been managing the confined existence through a virtual, kind of a life.
Workspace.
Everything is virtual now.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
And are you working out of home or office?
Completely out of home, except a couple of days I had to be in office for some specific reason. Otherwise, from home. Majority of our workforce, except those who are on the field, for example, our reporters in editorial function, or people who have to go for their production, all our printing plants. So that's a large section of our workforce engaged there. Those are the people who have to be there. Plus, we have the RMD, which is our distribution people.
Right.
For the people who go and pick up the newspaper right from our factories to the depots and then to the doorstep of our readers. So though they have no other choice but to go out.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
I see another panelist also joining us, Mr. Singh. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hi, Tanya. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Hi, Amit.
Hi, Antapit. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So just let me know, sometimes because this is the time when the traffic is very high, with the headphones at times when I speak, there could be slightly some kind of disruption. And just in case it is happening, just let me know. I'll remove this and I'll speak.
At times it is happening. Yes, at times it's happening. There is a light rumbling sound I can see when you are talking.
Oh, it is there, right?
Now it's fine, but it was happening.
It's fine. It's just for a second or two, I think. If while in the conversation, if we have a glitch like that, I will just stop you right there and ask you to.
Yeah, sure. So it just takes me a few seconds to remove this.
Sure. That we can manage. And sir, so how are you doing? How are things? Friends, family, all right?
All good. This is a topic so close to my heart.
Yes. I think super relevant also at the moment. I think everybody wants to know the future because everybody is very uncertain as to how and what things will take a turn for. So I think
the only thing here is, Tanya, I don't know, I'm sure you've also seen, there have been, so many such webinars happening on similar topics. Because I personally have been, doing it quite often. Of course, I have restricted myself from accepting such requests, but last 6 months, there have been at least 20 or 25 such webinars where more or less similar topics have been discussed. Yeah, it is relevant, but at times, this kind of things also, the feedback I'm getting from the community is that getting a bit of a fatigue, webinar fatigue, if you have to call it.
Yeah, it's a bit. Actually, for us also, I think, as you said, everything is online now. So for me as a journalist also, I think it's much easier for, me to have 4 people or 5 people at one place together so that I can generate a report out of the current trends as well. So I think virtually rather than, meeting each one of you in person, which comes with its own set of challenges, I think it's an easier way to sort of get me to interact with you guys, and also the fact that this peer-to-peer interaction is also happening. So today also I've very specifically chosen the panel because I have a representative from the education side, plus I have representatives like you from the industry side. So I think that's the kind of balance I want to strike, and also a face-off kind of a thing, not in a very competitive way, but kind of the educationalists tell you their challenges, and you as recruiters, you tell them their challenges, and I in the meantime mediate and sort of get a sense of how things are on ground. Just allow me a minute to welcome Mr. Amit Kumar as well. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hi, Tanya. I'm fine. Hi, Amit. Hi, Mr. Singh.
Hi, Amit.
Hi, Amit.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, good.
So how many panelists we have today?
Sir, we're just waiting for 2 more.
Okay. So 5 of us, and what's the time allotted? 1 hour or 1.5 hours?
1.5.
1.5 hours?
Wrap up. No. 1 hour, 10 minutes or something. Yeah, something around that. So we don't really want it to be. Hanji, sir.
Hi.
Yeah. We have another panelist, Ms. Agrawal. Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good, Tanya. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Monica.
Hi, good afternoon.
Monica, good
Monica.
afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
So,
Yeah, so Amit, I was just referring to your comment. There is definitely a fatigue in terms of, explosion of webinars. But at the same point in time, there is a reinforcement. When we keep driving home the same messages again and again and again, there is an internalization, there is a reinforcement, and there is, I think, from this narrative, definitely a lot of solutions emerge. Of course, then policymakers have to.
No, you're right, Amanpreet. You are absolutely, Amanpreet, you're right, because just before this, I was just finished my review with one of the businesses that we have, which I'm sure you know, Time School of Learning, where we have this online education and others, skill building programs that we have, which we have, again, there's a big shift happening in the business model. So what I find is that every corporate, while overall the L&D spend has come down because of cost management pressures, but within the spend, the pie that they used to have on the digital learning or the e-learning has really shot up. So the pie of that has gone up, while the physical, obviously, the in contact, in-person program has come down drastically. So yes, there's a big shift that's happening in the online education, and this pandemic has actually accelerated some of the habits that we used to have, because we always used to struggle in industry about e-learning. That never took off, and it's a global phenomenon. E-learning has never took off, but because of this, suddenly everybody is compelled to get into online, any kind of.
Also proves how agile we are. It just took us literally, I think, 48 hours for everyone in the business, no matter what sector you come from. And we were there online, education, human resources, marketing. Everybody was, there in 48 hours, back to business and trying to pick up the pieces from what had happened, the huge setback, so to say, that has happened for industries across the world. But I think it's a good thing to know that, we are ready for any kind of mishappening or misfortune. And thanks to technology, I think the suffrage could have been much worse. I think if it was
one is the state-of-the-art technology which is available today. The second is that sheer adaptability of human beings to make this transition, which was put to test in a situation like this. And that, I think all of us as mankind, we have demonstrated the right agility to make this transition.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Just allow me a minute to welcome another panelist of ours, Mr. Debashish. Hi, sir.
Hey. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Good evening to all of the panel.
Hi,
good evening, Debashish.
Good evening.
And I think the audience, once they join, they are joining from different time zones, right?
Okay. So good to see you here, sir. Yes,
Am
sir,
I
yes,
audible?
sir, you are. You are.
Thank
might
you,
want to
thank
fix your, laptop so that we could, have a better view of your mid-shot, like your face.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Let me just, I think, switch off.
Yeah, just fix your laptop to mid-shot so that we can have a clear view. We can hear you perfect. That's all right. Allow me a minute to welcome Mr. Chaturvedi as well. Hi, sir. How are you? Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi?
Yes. Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much. I'm doing fine and great to be back here at this event.
Yes. Just take a minute to say hello to your panelists as well. The house is full now. And after introduction, we can quickly start off. I am very greedy for all the questions today, so I want them answered as much as I can.
Right. Yes. So good evening, Mr. Debashish, Mr. Amit, Mr. Andarpreet, Monica ji, Mr. Amit again, and Tanya. And great to be there at the same panel with such a diverse and experienced panel with amongst us today. And yes, of course, thanks to Tanya, we have all come together this evening to discuss a very exciting and pertinent topic, and look forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, sir, so much for. I'm sorry, Amit, sir, you were saying something?
No, I said thank you, Siddharth. Look forward.
All right.
Hi, Siddharth.
So if we are all on board, I think my team has given me a cue that we are now live on 5 streaming platforms. It's exactly 4 o'clock, so I think I am not going to waste any single minute now. You can see the number of attendees also increasing on all our social media platforms and Zoom as well. So without taking another minute, I formally extend a big welcome to all of you today, all our attendees and all our panelists. And I welcome you all to ISEC University's presents HR Conclave on the futures of skills through online education. My name is Tanya Tikku and I am the editor-in-chief and co-founder of Observe Now. We are India's first general knowledge app that produces news and content in 120 words. We are now live on Android, so please take a minute to check out our content. We refrain from the mainstream media content that we produce, that media has been producing at this point in time. So that's a quick word about Observe Now. And I think ISEC universities, I think the main idea today for ISEC universities to sort of, put together this panel was their constant effort to create education that produces quality of students and gets them ready for future skills and for their jobs in the future. I think they've been tirelessly working in this space to produce the best quality students in the country. And I think today is one of those days where we discuss what is the requirement of the future, how students are going to adapt to this online education, and also the kind of skills that they would now need. Probably would not have needed 6 months or 8 months before today's time, but I think now the game has changed very quickly. So I have put together this diverse set of panelists coming from the industry side as well as the academia, so that I can, sort of create this environment where we could talk about all the ranging issues today. So please allow me a minute to welcome all my panelists. Can I please welcome Mr. Debashish Kumrao, who is the Director HR at TCS. Hello, sir.
Hi. Hi.
Mr.
Thanks for including me in this panel. And good evening.
Our pleasure, sir. Thank you. May I please welcome our next panelist, Mr. Amit Das, Director, Head HR and CHRO at Bennett and Coleman Group, which is the Times of India Group. Hello, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody.
Mr. Antrapreet Singh, Director, Digital Learning at ISB Hyderabad. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir. Ms. Monica Agrawal, Vice President, Human Resources at Hindustan Times. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and I'm happy to be part of such an illustrious panel. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi, Executive Vice President at ISEC Group of Universities. Hello, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Great to be a part of this panel.
And Mr. Amit Kumar, Senior Vice President, Talent Acquisition at InfoEdge India. Hi, sir.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's great to be part of this panel. Looking forward to the discussion ahead. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, everyone. I think I'm straight away going to dig into the question. I've already set the context here. I think today what I'm trying to understand here is how do we create this atmosphere where students, when they are in college and when they are doing their online education for God knows how long, because nobody knows the bottom of this pandemic at the moment. So I think it's going to stay here for a little while. So we have to show that agility in terms of creating quality of students and creating quality of education as well. With the NEP in place, which is such a progressive policy by the government of India, I think what we need to understand here is implementation and how we could make the best use out of it. So I think, Siddharth, sir, I'm going to first jump on to you and just to sort of, give a context as well. My research tells me that there is an online academy for futuristic skills education that ISEC Group of Universities has started. So if you could just lead on with that and give us a brief about what that is, so that I could take the question forward to the rest of the panelists who come from the industry side in terms of assessing what are the skills that you're producing and what are the skills that are required in the industry.
Right. Thank you, Tanya. And coming to the opening remarks and the key questions for today's panel, before I talk about our own academy. So once, when we were discussing this panel with Tanya and we were wondering now the debate and the discussion around future skills has accelerated many folds in the last 5 months. It was anyway upon us, even with the advent of Industry 4.0 happening and a growing cry from the industry to make our workforce or the student output more and more employable. So with that kind of stuff already happening and COVID coming and accelerating all the digital adoption which we are seeing coupled with the introduction of the new education policy, future skills have become one of the main talking points today. So the key questions for today's panel and the context are: one, what does what do we mean by future skills? On one hand, there is a domain specific skills, and we interpret artificial intelligence and cyber security, machine learning, and so on from future skills. On the other hand, future skills also talk about generic skills of interpersonal behavior, curiosity, learning throughout lifelong learning, and so on. So how do we blend the domain and generic skills? And to my mind, both of them are equally important, and both of them are future skills referred to in various studies by different houses. So that is one. Second is the intended audience. So whereas earlier it was more from the point of view of upskilling or reskilling of the already working professionals. Now the scope has widened, and with NEP, we are talking about introduction of future skills at school level, then right up till the higher education and the college level. In the skills and vocational training, since we work extensively in that area, also there is a talk of introducing these future skills at a mass level, at a grassroots level, and then going right up till the higher level will need to be reskilled or upskilled. So the second question is the target audience, and how do we cover such a diverse set of audience if India has to become the global supplier of skilled manpower in the next 10 years or so. And the third is the way and the methodology of delivering this. Should it be just a domain of edtech players such as White Hat Junior or Byju's, or will it become more mainstream, and will we see future skilled kind of trainers or faculty in all the conventional colleges and institutions also? And how will the online medium play a big role in spreading this, in delivery of these future skills across? Final point from our side, recognizing that future skills is not just the domain of the urban learner anymore. On the other hand, is going to actually be spread out across rural and semi-urban India going ahead. We've also come up with our own, ISEC Future Skills Academy, which is leveraging on programs and delivering these
We lost you at the Future
Yes,
Skills Academy and what you
right.
did.
So I was just finishing this by saying that, recognizing that future skills is not going to be the domain of urban learners anymore, not just them anymore. We've launched a very simple platform, ISEC Future Skills Academy, in association with Microfocus, Red Hat, Zebia Technologies. And we want to take this to the tier 2, tier 3 markets. And we also want to bring in the vernacular content. I mean, how do you teach cyber security using Hindi, or maybe even other vernacular languages going ahead? That's where I see a big need coming in the coming years. But I'll stop there. And this is to my mind the context for today's discussion. And rather, I am looking forward more as a listener to listen from all the experienced panelists. Back to you, Tanya.
Thank you, sir. I think you rightly set the direction for this discussion today. So I think building on from what you've been doing at ISEC and also your expectations from the conference, I may please first go to my first panelist, Mr. Amit Das from the Times. And there's no bias here, so I can see you first on my screen. So I'm just going to go around the clock like that. So, sir, I think you've heard Siddharth sir speaking. You've heard about the skills that he's trying to explore. So maybe if we can, start by understanding how do we really assess the skills of the future. Now, you come from a company that has different kind of talents. You've got your reporters, you've got your marketing people, you've got your sales people. There is a plethora of, talent at the Bennett and Coleman Group. So how do you sort of measure them in one scale? How do you assess the future skills? And if you could name the top 5 in your head that you're expecting to recruit, let's say next year, the students who graduate next year. Can we talk about that?
Sure, Tanya. So first, what you have asked me is about what would be the top 5 future skills that we have in mind. And next
Yes.
is in
And
terms,
how do we assess? How do we
yeah,
assess?
and in
Because you
terms
come
of,
from such a diverse background,
that's right. That's right.
represent. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so we all know that the dynamic and the fast changing business ecosystem is throwing up constant challenges to the corporate world. So I won't shy away from saying that we are constantly grappling to have the adequate clarity on the future, right futuristic skills, and of course the competencies that we are talking about. So
Right.
having said that, I would personally put my weight on few competencies, which in my mind, I think will help future-proof the business and also help create what we call an agile organization. The first thing is about creativity and innovation. So I think the future workforce will need to be creative disruptors. They have to fully realize the benefits of all the new things for the future, the new products, the new ways of working, the disruptive technologies. So the future workforce, they need to embrace that innovative mindset to have fun with creativity at workplace so that they can manage the dynamism of the business world. The second thing that we need to have is the emotional intelligence. And this is all about a person's ability to be aware of, being in control, express not only their own emotions, but also being cognizant of the emotions of others around them. So we need to exhibit high emotional intelligence when we should have empathy, integrity, and connect with others around us. So this competency would foster deep understanding of the critical elements of the business ecosystem, and at the same time, it will help drive collaborative success.
Right.
The third thing, if I have to mention about, is critical thinking. It's all about how we think and not what we think. So critical thinking mindset obviously leads to innovative solutions and ideas. They help solve complex problems using rational and logic, and at the same time, evaluate diverse perspectives and views with multiple approaches to deal with the business challenges. Another skill in great demand going forward would be your learning agility, which is a fundamental for a growth mindset. So this would entail intellectual curiosity, constant hunger for learning new things, your ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay. And last but not the least, I would say, of the 5 competencies that you asked, is the change management capability or the mindset. Okay. So this would require a very flexible and agile human brain to embrace the need to proactively be responsive to change for the better. So this would also require cutting short the various stages of what we are all aware of, the Kubler-Ross change management curve, and fast track the recalibration of our mindset to proactively live and invest in the skill sets to successfully manage the future demands and the challenges at the workplace. So to your second question about assessing the skills, or what I call as competencies, there will be various simulation-based tools backed up by the right technology, which are available in the market. But additionally, what I would say that,
could you name a few that you're using?
So we can experiment, but what we can do, I'm not getting into any product specific, kind of a tool, but in addition to these simulation-based technologies tools that are available today, I would personally want to supplement that with more of dialogue and conversation, not only with our internal employees for assessing their competencies, but also with the prospective employees and the candidates during their interview process through non-standard interview conversations. So people reveal a lot of their personality traits when we engage in a one-on-one conversation. We can observe these responses when asked questions about real-time challenges at workplace. So the engagement level and the open-mindedness during these kind of conversations help us assess their innovative thinking, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, whatever that I've spoken about, the skills, competence, the learning agility and growth mindset to deal with dynamism and change at workplace. Also, I would say in today's information age driven by the social media, we can benefit from the digital footprint of not only our existing employees, but our prospective employees as well. So their activities on the social and digital platforms can tell a lot about their creativity, compassion, agility, and can even give us a fair sense of their emotional intelligence.
Absolutely, absolutely. But sir, one question that pops up in my head here is, of course, I think I completely agree with the 5 competencies of emotional intelligence, agility, learning, critical thinking. And I think I do agree with that. But sir, what I want to understand is, I think these competencies were, required before our corona pandemic sort of hit us as well. So where do we draw the fine line of change? What has actually changed on ground since, you are the person who's the head of such a big organization, I think. So what is that change that you've seen? Because you spoke about change management as well. So what is that fine line of change that has happened in a post-COVID world, which is also 6 months now? So
See,
could you maybe talk about that a bit?
This pandemic has been an acid test for leadership across the globe. I don't think anybody across global organizations, corporations were prepared for this kind of a jolt that they have got. While all of us prepared ourselves for business continuity purpose, and we have invested quite a lot in terms of our resources, in terms of capability building. But what we were not prepared was this kind of a change, or the jolt, which started off as a health crisis, but led to an economic crisis across the globe. So I think that what it has done, this kind of pandemic, is accelerated or broken the myths in our minds of certain things and the way we approach the business. I think that's a big change, not only in the mindset, but around that, the skill set that we have developed.
Of it as well, I think, and we have shown that agility. Fair enough, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I will come back to you on that, but let me please first move on to the next panelist, Mr. Amit Kumar. So Amit sir, I think the same question I would pose to you. How do you assess the skill of the future? And as sir defined the 5 competencies, do you agree with those, or do you have another set of skills that you would like to add to what Mr. Das has said here?
Yeah.
And once again, if you could also talk about, change management, that change curve that you've seen in a post-COVID world now. So 6 months, I think, is a good enough time for that analysis as well. So some on-ground reports, if you could share with us.
Yeah. So I think I agree with, what Amit has articulated in terms of the key future skills. But from the perspective of the organization that I come from, so we at InfoEdge, we have 4 online businesses, right? So essentially, our fundamental pillar is technology and innovation. Now, from the prism of what we look for, right, in our talent, I would agree with Amit that the topmost skill is the emotional intelligence. It is the ability of an individual to understand and express own emotions as well as understand someone else's emotion. And second one is innovation, right? Because we as an organization put a lot of emphasis on the fresh thinking, irrespective of one's function, role, or department. One should apply fresh thinking in whatever he is doing. And it is the fresh thinking that will give companies a competitive advantage, right? And for example, like, if as an organization, you employ people who are creative, who apply fresh thinking, by the sheer application of their thinking and application of their mind, the organization will stand out from the other competitors.
Right.
And third thing that I would like to talk about is the data analytics, right? So, like we have seen in last, 2 decades, data has been the fuel of revolution, and companies are bombarded by data. We have so much data which is available, with us. Consumer data, your server data, any kind of data, employee data, right? And there, we see that there is a big gap in the available data, and big gap of analyzing this data into an business insights.
Right.
And what I mean to say is that while we don't, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be a data scientist, but everyone needs to be data illiterate to the extent that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What you're trying to say here is that we need that, one specific job role where the analysis of the data can be rightly done, since we've been bombarded with data now, and it's now increasing with every fold. And that person can apply it to the industry, apply it to the company, and sort of, open up many more avenues for it. Fair enough, sir. Sir, I don't have that question. One of our panelists has put up, attendees has put up a very interesting question for you, which I want to take up with you right away. So he's asking, dear Amit Kumar ji, I think how how can a candidate get proper guidelines for a job at Naukri.com? So I think once again, I would like to just polish this question a little bit. I think what he's trying to essentially ask you is, at the moment, everybody is facing huge job losses, and no matter what industry they're coming from. And I think Naukri.com, the platform that it is, it's very evident in the name. So any new guidelines that you've come out with, how are you helping people to, find the right jobs, and where are you applying data at the moment? What kind of interaction do you have with the industries, and maybe let's say even with groups like the Times or in the Sun Times here?
Yeah.
So how do you sort of be the middle person here and help people out? This question is from Mr. Sandeep Khanduri. Thank you, Mr. Khanduri, for your question.
Yeah.
I will now allow Mr. Kumar to talk about it.
Thanks, Sandeep. So good question. So I'll answer this question in two parts. Right. So one is, the COVID has changed. COVID has changed face of recruiting overnight, actually. And there are three key dimensions which has got impacted due to COVID. One is the disruption in the job market, right? So that has led to change in the hiring needs. The hiring trends have changed. So sectors like hospitality, travel were booming 6 months back, right? They were hiring in big numbers. And post-COVID, the numbers have shrunk. And, these companies have also sort of, laid off people. But at the same time, there are sectors which are booming. So the market has changed. A new transformation is happening. A new wave is coming. So, players who are into e-commerce, online, fintech, they are hiring in big numbers. And, that's where the, wave is going.
Right. So your suggestion is to kind of upgrade your skills toward these sectors, edtech, fintech at the moment.
Yes. The suggestion is to sort of, see the trend early on and try to see how can you add value in the changing ecosystem.
Right.
Even
and
for
does
people,
Naukri.com come out with reports to help,
Yes.
not very jargon kind of a report, but reports that help people who actually apply for jobs? Do you come out with reports that help people like that?
Yeah, so post-COVID, there are two things that we have done. So one is we are conducting, bi-monthly, sessions, webinars to talk about different trends, which sector is hiring, what is the trend looking like. And these webinars are for the end user or for employers or recruiters also. Second, you rightly said that as the product, as business, we also publish our hiring trends, our hiring reports. So Job Speak report is what we publish on a monthly basis, and I'm sure it is a job seeker can find it on our website. And in the Job Speak survey or report, you will find many insights. You will find many insights in terms of how to be ready.
I think very important. Absolutely, sir. I hope, Mr. Sandeep, that answers your question. And I think that's a very important insight for everyone who's listening here as well. You might go to the Naukri.com website where they've published actually many reports that, talk about the hiring trends. And that might sort of help you to look at the skills, the futuristic skills that you might want to upgrade at the moment. So that's how Naukri.com would play here. Thank you very much, sir, for those thoughts. I will now move on to my next panelist, Monica ma'am. Ma'am, of course, the same question to you in terms of any competencies that you want to list out. And building on from what Mr. Amit Kumar has said, he spoke in the beginning about changing of hiring trends, which we've all seen and witnessed. Now, again, Hindustan Times, it's a media group, but, again, you have a diverse set of portfolios that you manage. So maybe a few hiring trends here and there you could talk about from a media standpoint and from the other diverse portfolios that you also manage and handle at HT. Ma'am, you're at mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm perpetually on mute for some reason. Okay, so thank you, Tanya. Thanks a lot. And I would just like to add on what both Mr. Amit Das and Amit Kumar said. See, I personally believe, Tanya, that future is a word which we've kind of overused, or it's overrated, because how do you really define future? Future is tomorrow, future is next week, future is next year. So would the skill which is required today will change hugely with vis-a-vis the skill which is required tomorrow. So that's why I believe the fundamental skills will stay the same. So for example, in case I'm hiring for sales and I need skills like influencing skills, interpersonal skills, negotiation skills. So these fundamental skills will stay the same. However, yes, what the gentleman have said about the changing trends, there'll be some overarching skills that will be required, or some add-on skills that will be required over and above the fundamental skills,
And can we
which
talk
they
about
rightly said.
those?
Which they rightly said, which is adaptability, agility, critical thinking. So I completely agree with that. And because we are moving into a machine era or a digital era, anything which is human, anything which is emotional intelligence, empathy. So these are also the skills which will be required for future immensely. And coming on to the changing trends of
also, ma'am. Yes. Any technological skills also that you want to talk about? Because a lot of engineers, I think a lot of ISEC students have also, joined us, and many of them come from an engineering background as well. So I think that's again a background where you can go into a diverse set of jobs. So if you could, sort of talk about their evolution in a post-COVID world.
So let me take a specific example from the from Hindustan Times point of view. When the pandemic hit, we realized that so when our readers were reading a hard copy, a newspaper, they have quickly moved on because there was so much of fear to get newspapers at home. RWAs have blocked the circulation of newspapers when the pandemic hit in March. So that's why most of the readers, they were moved on digital platforms. And that's the reason why all of us who were working in person, who were working on the print product, had to update their skills. They have to update and reskill themselves quickly for the digital platform. So my reporters came out quickly doing videos, doing web stories. What is SEO? Many of them didn't even know what is SEO. So we have to quickly, get them into the rhythm of the digital. So that's what changed. My marketing people, they were meeting the clients in person and then selling. They had to get into the digital marketing stream. They have to get onto the learning of new platforms where they can interact with people. They make their pitches. So these are the skills that we had quickly picked up and equipped our people. SEO is one thing, as I've told you, that we would want everyone who's coming now, even if he's a good writer, he should know these skills. He should be good with the video recording. He should be good with the podcast, the sound training. So these are the things that per se for our industry was really important, is what we felt.
So 6 months ago, while hiring a journalist, you wouldn't have checked out for these things. But now I think it's a prerequisite. Is that the change that you're seeing? Fair enough.
Yeah, see, slowly we would have done that, but it is fast forwarded. It is accelerated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we look for hybrid skills now.
That's very well put, ma'am. Hybrid skills, I think, and that goes for every domain. Thank you very much for those thoughts, ma'am. I will come back to you. For now, can I move on to my next panelist, Mr. Debashish? So, sir, I'm again going to build on from what Monica ma'am has said here. And I think one thing that I kind of pick up from ma'am's, input here was about marketing. Like she said that, marketing people, they were meeting people offline, and now everything is turned into digital marketing. Now, if we take a step back and remember the pre-COVID era, I think in every organization, like even from a TCS to a Times or to a Hindustan Times or to a Naukri.com, there were two separate profiles, marketing and digital marketing. Now, has COVID kind of interspersed these two profiles into one? What is the fine line that distinguishes these two profiles, if it does? And also, again, if you could throw some light on the skills, upgradation of the skills that you've done or that you look for in the times to come. A lot of people here, interested in jobs at TCS. So you could just give an analogy like that.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Monica, as well as Mr. Das and Amit. The skills that I just go back a few years when World Economic Forum forecasted some of the skills that is going to be in demand. I think I will go back to 2010 maybe. 2010, we had social intelligence as a skill that is will be demand, and cross-cultural competencies, then computational thinking, integrity, compliance, and all that, which are relevant at that point in time, looking at the future of the the industry movement or the industry as such. In 2015, they've actually forecasted for 2020. And all the skills that they forecast in 2015 for 2020, today, after the pandemic, we kind of realize that it is actually fast-paced and it is completely changed. And that is what Ms. Monica said about hybrid. So because there will be job re-engineering at the forefront for all industries, and which was forecast.
For all profiles.
Yeah, it was probably forecasted in 2024 or something like that. And now it has come much closer, and the pace at which it is moving, and people are thinking about it because they are realizing that it will stay on. This pandemic and this contactless economy will stay on. They are looking at skills like resilience, skills like adaptability and purpose-driven. Then sense making, and sense making is more or less what Amit Kumar has said about data, that what kind of data they are looking at and whether they are making sense out of the data or not. And it is not about analytics, but anyone who's observing nature also are the data that they are observing, and how closely they are observing this data, and how intricately they are observing the data, the depth at which they are able to get insight from it. And then of course the virtual collaborations. So what everyone is talking about is today, pandemic has changed the pace of the speed of change. The speed that was forecasted has come closer. So I don't see that, okay, there's only pandemic has changed, but only the thing is that now industries and all educational institutions also are looking at their business model in a changed environment, and which they are presuming that it is going to stay. I'll not say it is a new normal, but I would say it's a kind of a perceptive change about things that is going to happen tomorrow, looking at the movement of consumers and the consumer behaviors. And today's students are end consumers for educational institutes, right? And I normally talk about that if they are the end consumers, then institutes or academic institutes actually have to look at them as the consumers and their behaviors. And if you look at, I talk about it as a PEP model, and how they perceive and what they experience, and price point. Okay.
Absolutely, sir. Just a quick thought here, building on from, one of the comments that I can see in the chat box here. I think somebody wants to ask you how TCS can intake a candidate for a job. Do we have a required guideline? Okay. So I'm just kind of going to, polish that question and put that across to you. So tell me any new requirements that have come up now, TCS being a fully tech company, and this is the time for tech, cybersecurity, machine learning. So any changes in that? I think for a TCS job, any which ways these skills were required that we're talking about now. So again, that fine line I'm going to ask you. How has that fine line changed? Quickly, if you could just,
It's a very good question. It's a very good question, actually. Assessment of competencies. And what I mentioned earlier, that there will be more focus on higher order cognitive abilities. And assessment of competencies and skills will get maximum focus, specifically in the areas that I mentioned about the competencies that they're looking for. So new innovative methods and technologies will be on the rise, and the products will start tapping into subconscious triggers, okay, to provide higher accuracy in assessment, neutralizing the effects of social bias or socially acceptable biases in questionnaire-based assessment. You may come across assessment using color codes, other gaming techniques and simulations.
I think that's the new thing that has come out. I think in
it's competencies or skills and occupational insights, which will provide occupational insights, the strengths of the candidates, the learning style, and as an awareness for both selectors and the candidates for insight-led decisions making for self and the organization through data-driven sciences, of course. As a TCS, as many of you would have seen just 2 days before, we have you might have come across a press release that national qualifying test is going to be conducted by TCS ION, which is a separate company, but within the Tata Group. And they are trying to this is a separate product company, but within the TCS umbrella. And they are to qualify people not only for TCS, but for other corporate as well. And it is an example of how collaborative hiring methodologies will be used in the days to come. And
absolutely. I think very important insights there as well, sir. I think thank you very much for sort of helping us understand the skill-based competencies that you spoke about, and also the kind of hybrid hiring practices that have now come into play. I will come back to you, sir, but please before that, may I move on to our panelist, Mr. Singh, Mr. Antrapreet Singh. Sir, I think you've kind of heard everyone here, and they come from a different set of job profiles. Now, you come from the academia side as well. So, from you, of course, I want to know how you are sort of, you heard about the future skills, you heard about the expectations of the market. Now, you coming from the academia side, how are you bringing these experiences, and how are you for the students, and how you're managing on the deliveries of it? Maybe you can throw in a couple of challenges as well that you want to tell the recruiters out there. What is the gap that is sort of hindering introduction of the right skills of the students at the moment?
Sure, Tanya. So let me clarify. I am from academia only for the last 2 years. 33 years I've been in industry, and 18 years as global CXO. So it's only last 2 years that I've moved to academia. Now, please allow me to bring in digital economy of India, and that I will link it with the delivery question, which you, as well as the challenges. And this is the initiative. I mean, I have been personally involved in the states of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, and hopefully, I mean, my ambition is that as I do my research, I also cover more Indian states. Currently, and this is very, very relevant for future skills. Currently, digital economy is nearly 6% of our country's GDP. The digital economy currently is at $200 billion. In next 5 years, we are having a dream to reach $1 trillion, which is a CAGR of 36%, and we would be 25% of our economy. And by 2030, this is based on the research I have done, we will be 40%, almost equal. Digital economy and the brick and mortar economy will almost be equal. Now, what does it mean? Some of the data which has been given by Ministry of IT and Electronics, and the Honorable Ministry of IT and Electronics placed it on the table in Rajya Sabha last year, is that 6.5 crore, 60 to 65 million jobs. Youngsters, I mean, this is very important for future skills and youngsters. These jobs will be supported by digital economy of India, which would have by then grown to $1 trillion, 5x in 5 years. Whereas our brick and mortar economy will grow. I mean, unfortunately, we are in the negative spiral at this point in time, but it will grow at a much smaller, single digit, that also in the mid 5 or whatever. Now, that would require at least 40 million to 45 million youth to be retrained on future skills. That is 4 to 4.5 crore youngsters, or whatever. I mean, majority of, because the mean age of our country is 27. So that's why I'm saying it is the youngsters. We are the youngest country in the world. So what are those future skills? I mean, so the Ministry of IT and Electronics has prepared 10 themes, 30 programs, which is Make in India, Make for India, and Make for World, which has electronics, which has software, which has education technologies, which has farming based on technologies, which has skilling, and whole lot of this thing. I won't go into the details of that. Now, these are the future skills which our national education policy has also brought in to the surface. And I would say that this vocational training. So what is missing here is that, and Siddharth is there from the core academia. He's a senior leader with the university. Our educational strategies, and Tanya, here I will link it to the delivery, our portfolios are still relating to the conventional brick and mortar economy. Whereas we are growing at 36% CAGR in digital, we should put money where the mouth is, put money where 36% growth is there. And so from that perspective, these digital skills, and I think all the my esteemed panelists have spoken about the digital skills. And here I would like to mention that it is extremely important that in next 5 years, we are moving into man-machine collaboration. And that man-machine, it is not machine-man. And man, of course, it means man and woman. Man-machine collaboration means that we the youngsters, I am not the youngster, I'm pointing to all of you, the participants, you have to lead it from the front. Leadership, empathy, emotional intelligence, these will be as much important as the Python or machine learning algorithms or deep learning stack or any other this thing. And if
But
we
can
could
you quickly
yes.
also just throw in one challenge here, because I think that's what I want to do, to do face off with the recruiters here. One challenge in these implications as well, I think, right now, if we do not really speak about the future right now, because we are in the future now,
Yeah, so challenge, Tanya, I think this is a brilliant question because dreams are only accomplished when we overcome the challenges. And we have a dream of $1 trillion, but there are several challenges. Now, what are those challenges? The skill sets. Now, we say there are no jobs or jobs are diminishing. Jobs are not diminishing, job roles are diminishing. And these are being replaced by new job roles. If you have a core data science skill, if you have a machine learning skill, if you have digital content creation skills, if you have skills in robotic process automation, if you have skills in Internet of Things, if you have skills in, let's say, blockchain technologies, then all the job roles and the 6 to 6.5 crore jobs which digital economy is going to support will hover around these skills. And this is the time there's a shortage of skills. So we say there are no jobs and jobs are being lost. Job roles are being lost, and these are being replaced by a new set of job roles. So it is very important, and we have Debashish from TCS, and also Amit and Monica and Amit Kumar. I mean, all of you would see that how pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation in our company, in our companies, in our businesses, and Siddharth would agree with me, in our educational institutions. Now, these are the skills. Now, Siddharth is going to be the supplier of these skills, and Amit is going to be the facilitator, and Debashish or Monica or Amit Das are going to be the people who will be placing demand on the system. Now, if that demand is there, but the supply is not there, then how can we achieve that $1 trillion? So I think the narrative is completely out of place when we say there are no jobs in the market. There are enough jobs in the market.
So what you're essentially trying to say here is, sir, what just one thing that I quickly want to understand here is that one challenge that you're sort of facing at the moment, because now you know what is required at the moment in the market. You yourself said, I think jobs are not lost, just the roles have become obsolete. So now we know that we have to move towards more advanced, more tech roles. So is that education structure or the curriculum, is that what's blocking the process? Will NEP kind of add anything to that? Would that be helpful? In just one line, if you could quickly define.
Yeah, sure. So no, I've taken a lot of time, and I'll just take 30 seconds more. And let me now put educationist hat. I don't wear hat, so let me put educationist turban on my head, and it's already there. So as an educationist, I would say that we need to change. We need to change very, very quickly. You pick up a portfolio of any university, you pick up a portfolio of any B school, you will still find 20, 25 years, when I did my MBA 35 years earlier, the same curriculum with some changes. That is not going to work at all. We need to be very proactive. I mean, we can talk a lot, but unless we actually dirty our hands in changing those portfolios, this is not going to work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's rightly put. I think that agility is also required for the education institutions as well. So, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts. And Amit sir, Amit Das sir, can I move on to you now next? And once again, I want to sort of understand what is the value of, I think, online courses now, because I think before Corona, it was kind of not seen very happily by recruiters. How has that value changed, and what, pointers should we kind of keep in mind at the moment to, learn new skills as well? And if you could also help us understand what would be the ideal mix of curriculum and structure, as in how much percentage of theory should be learned and how much practicality should be learned, and does the practicality of learning of students, may that be from any background, has that got to increase now because we're talking digital, we're talking tech? How are these things kind of shaping up now?
Sure. See, we all know that the students of today, they'll be the future workforce. And today we find that they're growing up with Facebook. They are already the digital natives. So, but they also need to inculcate the life and business skills, which I mentioned about in terms of empathy, agility, collaborativeness, multi-stakeholder management, very, very high degree of tolerance to ambiguity. And at the same time, which we spoke about, develop the growth mindset, critical thinking, and resilience to succeed in a dynamic and increasingly disruptive world that will, pan out. So I think we need to create an educational ecosystem which helps the students to develop that emotional intelligence beyond cognitive intelligence. The ability to learn, unlearn, relearn. At the same time, develop that intellectual curiosity to assume nothing but question everything. So hence the curriculum also should have a balance between cognitive and emotional learning, focusing more on building learning habits. So the current education process that we have in our country, it focuses more on knowledge dissemination and very, less on skill development. And the students who are the output of the academic world, which in turn will be the input for the industry, and the industry also undertakes business activities for the development and growth of the economy. So this should entail continuous monitoring of the business dynamics to figure out the emerging skills and competencies, and also to prepare the industry-ready students. So hence, I think the various industry bodies need to work very closely with the government to include more stakeholders in providing the strategic inputs, brainstorm the practical challenges and their implications, at the same time by adopting a scenario building approach. So there are three critical stakeholders in this entire game: the government, the industry, the academia. They need to form a kind of a tripartite synergy to collaborate for a win-win outcome. Absolutely. So that would help us develop the right curriculum and with inbuilt skill building. And I think there's a collaborative opportunity for industry players with higher education institutes in building that kind of a strong data layers and technology solutions in the areas of whether it's blockchain, AI, predictive analytics, which will help bridge the demand and supply gap for the emerging skills. Also, I think the private sector can also get involved as experts in setting up and operationalize some of these bodies like National Education Technology Forum, which can act like an incubator for churning out some of this new age digital savvy talent.
Absolutely, I think that's rightly put, sir. And just for my reference, and if let's say hypothetically speaking, any educational body and any government body comes to you and sort of asks you for your help, would you be, as the representative of the Benetton Coleman Group, would you be happy to provide your inputs? Would you would you want to be a active part of that community in terms of nation building, in terms of future building? Would that be all right with you at the moment?
So we are already in the process, Tanya. It's not that we will be looking at it in future. We are already in the process. It has nothing to do with the pandemic, because there was an active collaboration and a play between the industry and the academic institutes, which have been happening for quite some time. But I think a pandemic like this has only, as I said before, accelerated this process. And the new education policy 2020 that has come up, I think it's a step in the right direction. A lot of focus has been put on the technology-enabled transformation that's going to happen. And a lot of focus on a vocational education, which they have indicated to be starting from class 6 itself. So gone will be the stigma kind of thing which used to happen with the vocational education vis-a-vis the higher education. So that's
when we were growing up, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a big step in the right direction.
It is. It sure is. Thank you very much for those thoughts. Monica ma'am, can I move on to you? And once again, I want to understand how, what is the ideal mix of, structure in curriculum, how much should be practical and how much should be theoretical, and any stats on that as well. And also if you could sort of talk about the importance of online courses at the moment. Has it drastically changed? Would you, let's say, hire somebody from an IGNU now more or for a better profile that you would have hired maybe 6 months back? So how have those dynamics also changed?
Yeah, Tanya. Again, picking up from Amit Das and from Dr. Anandpreet's discussion here, which is, see, I believe there has to be a closer wedding between the curriculum, the academics, and the industry. And I completely agree. So what we teach to our kids, even in terms of before that, when we say that a person is successful in an organization, which is always if the person is capable of making those critical, effective decisions in the business, right? And that is the outcome of not only the knowledge that he would have gathered in an institute, but also experience, because with experience comes the wisdom. A student, you cannot expect that experience. So that's why many of the institutes have now adopted a case study method way back also. So a lot of case study, because then that is the experiential learning where a student can get into that kind of a system and take those decisions. However, even those case studies are dated. They are 20 years back, 30 years back. So the moment the student studies that in the institute and enter into the real corporate world, there is a sea change between the things. And that's the reason why, one, as Dr. rightly said, that we need to continuously revamp the curriculum that we have.
Absolutely.
Second, I believe that practical exposure is very important. In some other forum, I was talking about whosoever is a Marvel fan would have noticed that in their movies, there is something called portal that opens to a different world. And I always believe that internships is that portal which opens to the corporate world, where a student can jump into the corporate life, understand how a business works, how the decision making happens, go back to his college, and then tie it back with the theory. Because otherwise it is very difficult for a student to implement the theory that he has studied in a corporate world. So there has to be more and more such, I think, internships joints that should happen. Either because as of now, I believe there's only one summer internship which is allowed in 2 years. So there has to be more avenues for internship. There has to be more collaboration between the academia and the industry. And
actually, that's also what the NEP suggests. I think a lot of focus is on industry internships as well. So I think thereon also they want to focus on practical learning aspect of it more than the theoretical one.
Right. And second, I think a couple of years back, we were working on backward integration between the corporate and the institutes, whereby I remember we've approached Pusa Institute asking them if they can incorporate what we expect from our freshers. So if I expect a kind of knowledge from my freshers, can they actually teach them in their curriculum? And in case they don't have ready teachers, we were ready to send our managers to teach those students. So a collaboration like that probably can be looked at.
Absolutely.
So that's I will help. It'll
absolutely,
be one last point that I want to add that Doctor did discuss about the data analytics. Amit also discussed about that, data analytics and big data and critical thinking. I believe, yes, having that knowledge, but essential part is using that knowledge and interpreting data into a meaningful manner so that you can come out with a winning strategy for the organization.
Absolutely.
So that kind of a critical thinking is very, very important, and not only the technical skill.
And absolutely, and that is the best use of the abundance of data that we've been bombarded with right now. Absolutely. Very important point, and ma'am, very well articulated. Thank you. That sort of clears a lot of stuff in my head as well. Thank you for those thoughts. Siddharth sir, I think you've had quite a long time to sort of absorb and grasp what has been said on the panel. So your thoughts, and also since you also have a very significant academia representation, so maybe one challenge also that you could talk about in terms of implementation of the NEP and also the structure that our esteemed guests have put forward.
Right. No, so great learnings, compressed in those last few minutes, and I've actively, listened and found out. One is it reassures the list of generic skills which we're all talking about, and every panelist sort of talked about the innovation, the creativity, the decision making skills, collaboration, and so on. And there I think the NEP with its multidisciplinary approach starting from school level would help, because these are some of the skills which are inculcated right from young age. You cannot teach
Right.
these skills in a 2-month crash course. So once we take NEP in the right spirit and implement it from the school level, I think the next set of workforce would have these generic skills in a better manner. Coming to future skills and the domain specific skills, we come from a place where our universities operate in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even in the skills and vocational training space, a lot of our learners are underprivileged students. They come from rural areas. So one of the challenges for us, and for which we have come up with our own portal, learning portal, is that we need to demystify this entire set of future skills, which sort of sometimes can sound intimidating to first time learners or learners from rural areas, and present these to them in their own language. That is my first challenge, and there we need support from industries as well, who are willing to go take that extra step and create content which is contextualized and which is also easy to understand for these learners. So there the challenge is, these any kind of good quality content is an expensive affair, right? We're talking about good trainers to be engaged. We're talking about a lot of animation. We're talking about translation, and that entire content and simulation maybe also. So all these things put together, that is one challenge. How to get good quality content to meet our learners. And second challenge, for which again the industry academia linkage would come in very handy, and we are now engaging extensively with industry for this, is the trainers. Ultimately, this entire content has to be delivered through good quality trainers, and we
The
need
right set of trainers.
people who have this kind of experience and exposure to come and do, first of all, a sort of a master trainer training of trainers, and then also engage from time to time in terms of either an expert lecture or a boot camp session and so on. So there also industry has a big role to play. So that's the second challenge. So content and trainers, these are the two big challenges. We are working in these areas to overcome, and hopefully we should be able to can you hear me?
Now we can. I think we lost you for like 30 seconds.
Yes. So I was just wrapping up by saying that apart from content and trainers, industry academia linkage, and the third thing is the industry academia linkage at the national level, all right, and also engaging with the local industry clusters. That is the approach we have taken, because a lot of local industry clusters have their own unique problems, which we will understand sitting here, and we can resolve it much better. So those are the partnerships which I am seeing are working fine. There are a lot of internships which are happening. There is a lot of hiring also which has started happening. So some of these anchor, the model which I am thinking is anchor industry partners from the local MSME clusters and industry clusters, and a few national level partnerships for having a center of excellence kind of a thing. I mean, like today, let's say taking an example, finally from today's panel, if maybe TCS or Times of India, center of excellence on instructional design or on artificial intelligence or big data analytics. So very focused center of excellence which talks about research, building capacity, building the trainer capacity, and also reaching out to the learners is what is required. So at both levels, industry's requirement, industry's involvement is paramount importance, and we look forward to working closely with them for this.
Absolutely. Thank you,
I'd like to add
Siddharth
here,
sir, for
Tanya.
yes.
Yeah,
I'm
listening
sorry, I
listening to
can't.
Siddharth, something is
Acha, sir, Mr. Debashish, yes,
Devashish.
sir.
So listening to
Take
Siddharth,
it on.
one thing is clear that just in the model of a CSR, we should also kind of draw manifestos on the ACR, academic corporate relationship, which will build a holistic experience of academic and the students of tomorrow. I think that's what
Absolutely.
from a regulation standpoint.
Absolutely, sir. So anything else you want to add on to that before I move on to my next panelist? Quickly, if you want to say anything apart from that.
For me,
Yes,
but
yes, sir.
no, I just wanted to say that the questions that arise because of and particularly from India perspective, we have a huge gap between what we teach
And what we are required to do on the jobs. I think that has
and
been prevalent for a
because
very
from
long
a
time.
because from a classroom to a boardroom, it should be a seamless experience. That's what we can do to our students, our children.
I think this is the collaboration that Siddharth sir wants to
Yes.
essentially, work out on. And I think as an academician, I think it's a brilliant thought there as well, because I think at the end of the day, your job is to produce that kind of, talent that is very useful on the first day of the job. And we've been talking about bridging this gap for a very long time. So I think that is a very good suggestion. And I think taking away from this panel, if all of you leaders could, sort of collaborate and go create something like this, I think that would be a big win-win for me to sort of, have this panel together. But thank you very much for your thoughts, Debashish sir. Quickly, can I move on to you, Mr. Amit Kumar, and sir, can we have your closing thoughts here on this as well?
Yeah, so I think I agree with most of the panel members, and see what we have talked about today is that we need skills like agility, we need skills like creativity, critical thinking. But what are we teaching our students? The curriculum and the expectation are not in sync. We are feeding uh, curriculum which is very dated, which is very old. And in 2020, in today's time, we are expecting students to be more agile, whereas our structure is not agile. So I think that is where the gap is. I want to re-highlight that gap.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think that industry academia partnership as well should be very useful. And I think, Amit sir, where you come from, the industry that you come from, you're exactly in the middle. You are the spokesperson, so to speak, between these two dynamics of industry and academia. I think you as a platform or many others such as yours could also, keep in touch from in both the sides as well, to sort of update yourselves and update in your reports as well, the reports that the job
Yeah.
seeker reports that you were talking about. I think that could also give a lot of information to students as well, and could be a handbook of information for their futuristic jobs and skills. And also, if I could talk to the two academicians here and sort of, just a suggestion from my end, which I could, as a student few years back, which I would have, I think, really loved at that time, would have been that, such reports, had I known and back at that time, if universities or colleges could provide them to their students actively, I think they would be very, very relevant. And I think they would actually give a lot of ideas to students as to which direction that they should reskill themselves, and, what would be required in the future, rather than just, haphazardly picking out a course or haphazardly, doing an MBA because everybody is doing so. So I think that would be very, very important for the students over there. So thank you so much, Amit sir, for your thoughts. And Mr. Singh, can I have your closing thoughts here as well?
Yeah, so let me close, and I was typing answer to
I think, sir,
Himanshu's
you could
question.
just sort of, bridge the two
Let me
together.
close with that brilliant question which Himanshu has asked. So Himanshu, I would say that would be a very defensive strategy if we have education system which produces skills which cannot be automated. See, this is what happened when we started with IT adoption in India. And as we moved up on the IT value chain, we kept learning, and machines also kept learning. So I would say here that we need to have skills which can be automated after 2-3 years, and then you move on to the next skill on the skill curve, on the digital skill curve, I would say. Just to give an example, 10 seconds, your deep learning stack in the artificial intelligence stack. Now, this can do a lot of things which earlier required extensive coding, because these are part of the algorithms, whether these are through the bots or, I mean, you ask Alexa a complex question, Alexa will answer, because those skills have been automated. So we needed to be defensive about it, that I should have a skill which cannot be automated. That will not work. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. And I think just to kind of debrief the whole session, I think a few very important takeaways from today's session. So it's your answer. Yeah, okay. So I think a couple of important points from today's session, of course, is that we need to bridge this gap and have a more practical focused approach. I think we have to be very careful in terms of understanding and reading and mapping down the future skills as well, and then build and co-create industry academia partnerships that would also be very useful to design the skills of the future. And I think as an academician, I have two gentlemen on the panel who very rightly put, I think unless we have a three-party collaboration where the government sector, the private sector, and the universities could sort of create an ecosystem where there could be a very thoughtful designing of curriculum and courses that could really help students to be job ready on the first day itself. And once again, my panelists from the industry side, I think very interesting insights from you guys as well. I think in terms of creating a hybrid workspace and sort of quickly becoming agile and using that critical thinking to do the best you can on your job and also do a big data analysis. I think a very important point, Mr. Kumar, I think from your insights I've picked up is, I think the right way, and from Monica ma'am as well, I think both of you kind of built on that. And I think it was very important to know, what, there's a very prevalent question in the industry at the moment, what do we do with so much data? I think the best way to use those data points, as you guys rightly suggested, is to sort of understand the needs and then co-create and build curriculum that would really help to create job ready students here as well. And I think sir, your suggestion, Mr. Debashish sir, your suggestion also to make this a part of your CSR, I think would also be very, very relevant. And at the end of the day, I think my best suggestion to all of you would be, as I'm connected to all of you personally as well, so I will put you all in touch after the session as well. If you guys can, just co-create and, do something around this and work out on some policies and sort of help each other in understanding and bridging the gaps at the moment. I think that would be really wonderful, because ISD and ISEC and many other universities also, at this point in time would require that kind of guidance. So on that note, sorry we are over time, but I think the discussion was very intense and I just didn't really want to stop it in the middle, but I think we are over time. And thank you for the attendees as well. You've been constantly asking many questions. I'm sorry I was not able to take up all of them, but I did try my best to get as many answered as I could. So thank you for your questions, and a big thank you to all my panelists here as well, sir, Amit Das sir, Monica ma'am, Devashish sir, and then Preet Singh sir, Preet Singh sir, Amit sir, and Siddharth sir, of course, for giving me an opportunity to, create a panel like this and, highlighting the problems of the industry academia gap at the moment. I think it was a very stimulating discussion for me as a journalist, and a lot of learning there, and I hope you all had some peer-to-peer learning as well.
Thank you.
Great.
And
Thank
have
you,
a good
Tanya.
one.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Tanya.
hosting.
Thank you, everyone. It was a
So
great
thank
discussion.
you, and
Thank you.
yes,
Thanks, everyone.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a good one rest of the day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and have a nice evening, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And to all our attendees as well, thank you very much. And if you want to listen to a recording of this session, you can go to our Facebook page, Observe Now Facebook page, and it will be right there. So have a great evening, all of you, and we'll see you soon in another session. Thank you.